Hotel right across the street on Novato and Travis. Now I'm going to stop right here because it's our last stop. Our hearts. But the St. Anthony Hotel is a very interesting and beautiful establishment. They did begin construction on the St. Anthony in the year 1909. However, this was a very ornate and gorgeous place, and so it took 2 years in order to get that hotel ready. So it opened up in 1911. We had come here in we can come this way, sorry. Have you done the Austin Ghost Tours at all? No. There is one that they do in a hearse in Austin. They'll drive you around in a hearse and you can see all. Yeah,
I've seen it around. I've seen the hearse.
A lot of changes are going to happen here. This whole area gets like, even across the street, they're going to close off the street all that soon. And it's just going to become a big park that celebrates the history of the Alamo and hopefully kind of celebrates a little bit of indigenous history as well.
Yeah, I wanted to shot you in front. Curious Twins.
Okay. Great. Where are you exactly in the plaza? Okay, are you in the plaza or are you on Alamo Plaza District? Okay, so we are. Are you in the part of the plaza, which is where the gazebo is? Oh, you need to come down further down the plaza. You're going to come all, you're where the welcome center is. You're going to walk down that plaza as it goes down. Okay. With the Hobby Dog, where the welcome center is lined up. Ask as many as you want. This is your tour. Have fun. It's a small group, so you can ask tons of wonderful questions to us. It makes our night very entertaining when you have good questions for us. A couple of ins and outs about the tour. One, you are more than welcome to take lots and lots of photos throughout the tour. In fact, if you take lots of photos, who knows, you may end up with a little spirit or something as part of your photography if you are trying to achieve that. It is very tricky. It doesn't happen all that often. But what you do is you're going to want to take several photos in the same spot. I at least recommend taking it 3 times, and that way you can debunk. Maybe that was a fly, maybe it was a moth, maybe it was just your fingertip. So it's good just to kind of, test that theory a little bit in case you guys are interested. Only thing is winds. We are downtown. It is busy. There are a lot of drunk folks and people that may be drunk driving as well. So we are going to make sure that we will only cross the streets when the crosswalks allow us to. We don't want to add to spirit count tonight, so we're going to do that. Also, please, the only time we ask you not to use your phones is when we're crossing the streets. because we don't want you to trip and fall and then land in the middle. So if you could do that, that would be fabulous. We also do have a large homeless population in the downtown San Antonio area, and the homeless population knows that we do these tours, and they occasionally like to scare our guests. So if that happens too, I'm very, very sorry we haven't seen them. We will cross the street, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure you guys feel safe. It doesn't happen all the time, but we like to warn just in case. All right. Any questions so far? All right. We are not going to be using a loudspeaker tonight. Some tour companies do that, but we visit a lot of places that people have died at, that they've killed at, or they're buried. Now, I like to call this the DVR of the paranormal world. What parapsychologists believe happens is that somehow, environmentally, perhaps it's stone, a building, maybe it's wood, rocks, minerals, they have an ability to record parts of history and then later play them back. Some parapsychologists believe these aren't even true hauntings. They are just echoes of history repeating itself over and over again. Now, the other kind that we're going to be talking about this evening is intelligent spirits. Any idea what an intelligent spirit is, you guys? No, it's really simple. It's a smart ghost. All right. So if you've ever seen, like, any of the paranormal shows on TV, the river, some of the buildings that we're going to visit, I highly doubt many people do that. But we have a little bit of a different idea of the beginning. You've ever seen those shows and you think, oh my God, I got scratched by a demon. They jump to these kind of conclusions. We don't do that on this tour. We're not going to do that at all. The way we look at it is that in life, sometimes you meet amazing people. People you want to go have beer with, you want to go have dinner with, and sometimes you meet people here. Also, North with the Spanish recently came to the area to colonize. We have a much older history than 300 years. Actually, in archaeology, we know we have at least 10,000 years old. And then people that lived, drive through, way before the Spanish ever came, had very spiritual beliefs. They worshiped the land. They worshiped the river. The river itself was a deity. It was a life force, and it brought life to all. And one of their ideas surrounding the river is that if they died on one side of the river, they weren't crossing to the other side of the river. They were going to stay there as a permanent part of the state. I would like to start at the alley.
The people who lived here for these 10,000 years, they were really rooted in this land. They worship the land. They love the land. And if you have 10,000 years of people living in one area, they're also going to die in that area, and they're also going to bury their dead in that area. Stories back when they built it in February of 1859, but they were so successful in that first 6 months of business that they were able to expand all the way to this white part over here. And they expanded slowly, little by little. Even after Mr. Menger passed away, Mary Menger, Mrs. Menger, she continued on with this hotel. She continued to purchase property and expand the hotel all the way down this block. That last purchase allowed for the building of the Menger Bar as well. So Mrs. Menger was instrumental in the expansion of this space. But this was a very successful endeavor for them. But this is one of
restaurants, and there's plants, a few shops down there. It's really quite pretty. But for the longest time in the downtown area, all of our restaurants face the street. It's relatively a new concept that happened when the World's Fair came to San Antonio. There was this idea of trying to make this a very touristy place. And so there was a gentleman named Arthur Beckman. He went by the nickname of Happy or Hack. And he had this idea of opening up the building where we're standing right here. He would create shops here. He would also create luscious gardens right below us. And he would create 2 restaurants that would also be below us. And he would create these to face the river. A lot of people thought this was a genius idea. And they began to move their restaurants to face the river. And other people began to buy property along the river to create restaurants. Hotels got on the bandwagon and would have riverwalk entrances and also have beautiful riverwalk views. All of that really happened because of Arthur Beckman. He was pivotal with it, but he was also instrumental in San Antonio for a lot of other things. You guys, and you guys all from San Antonio, right? Yeah, no? Okay, well, if you are familiar with the Blue Star Arts Complex, anyone? Okay, Arthur Bettman would actually develop that piece of property. It was just an abandoned tire warehouse, and today it is full of galleries, it has condos, it has bars, restaurants, breweries. It's quite a happening place. He was a visionary. He would also make sure that we could preserve some of our local landmarks, such as the Aztec Theater, which is a wonderful and beautiful example of Aztec revival in the city of San Antonio. Very rare, and few of these, and that kind of condition exists to this day. But he would also be known throughout town because he was an owner of a very popular gay bar for a while. That was called the S.A. Country. S.A. Country was open for 2 years. He leased this property. And so the owners eventually sold the property, and he lost the land that the bar was on. So he thought, next time I open a bar, I'm going to make sure I own that land. It's mine. I'm paying a mortgage on it. And so he would go around to the city of San Antonio looking for the perfect spot. And he found one in downtown area. It's actually just on the other side of the avenue, and today it's still open. It's called the Fall Change. Because his lover was still around, and he wanted to be near his lover, he wanted to wait to cross over to the other side until his partner passed away and they could cross over together. Very interestingly enough, in January of this year, Garrett passed away, and perhaps they made their way to the other side. I have not actually heard of any hauntings going on in the bottom exchange since. But I like to tell this story. It's a little offbeat, but it gives us an idea of the Riverwalk, but it also gives us an idea of a very romantic but creepy stopper piece. So, thought I'd throw that out there.
So is the bottom exchange fun?
No, it was actually, I wish it was, because it would be very funny. But it was actually named after one of the people who fought in the battle. Yeah. So that's why it's like that. Yeah. It would be funny. Yeah, and it's also on fun. Yeah. Awesome. Very good question. Now, also one of the establishments that he saved, which was the Aztec, it's also considered to be a very haunted property. We're going to pass by it in just a few minutes, so you can take a look at it. It doesn't have a lot of great paranormal haunted history, but what people say they experienced there varies from somebody.
That's scary looking thing. Oh, he's the original gangster. Look at him. Yeah, run into that thing.
Yep.
Good bird.
I wanted a shot of you coming down that tunnel.
All right, welcome to Main Plaza. Anybody been here before? All right, well, this is San Fernando Cathedral. This is actually a very old and historic building. It is considered to be the oldest continuously running cathedral in America. However, that's a lie because it was originally a church. And in order to be a cathedral, you actually have to have an archdiocese. And so the city of San Antonio was under the rule of the Archdiocese of New Orleans. And so we did not have an archdiocese until much later, but it is a very old and continuously running church. It does date back to about 300 years ago. It was established in the 1730s. They began to work on it. The Spanish. And so every single one of the missions that you've heard about or you visited, they were actually an area where indigenous people would come together to worship. Right here in the plaza, where the cathedral sits, was thought to be the highest point of worship for indigenous people in the entire area. This is where you came for ceremony. This is where you came to come together as a community. And the Spanish knew that. They wanted to destroy that because they thought that if they destroyed the indigenous mindset, that they could convert them to Catholicism, that they would start paying them money to be part of their church. And so that was their whole goal, to do that. So that is a hole right in this area. And they actually surrendered all of their hatchets, their bows and arrows, any of their weapons, they surrender them right here. They also would sacrifice a white horse here. They would sacrifice, kill that white horse, and let right here as well. They're entombed right in the front of the cathedral. As soon as you walk in, you'll actually see the little sarcophagus where all the ashes were gathered up and they deposit them here. This is also the heart of the red light district. We promised you prostitutes, and we're going to share with you as much as we can with that right now. So it was a very common thing during the 1860s all the way to 1913 for cities to have red light districts. This is where our red light districts began. So if you think about 1860, all of these buildings that are around us, in the city, a sum of $500 every single year. Back in this time, that was the equivalent of 40 grand. It's a lot of money. And everywhere else in the United States, they didn't have these kinds of rules. They had prostitution by the dollar. If you go to a gas station and you purchase a bottle of water for $1, you're roughly going to spend about 8 cents worth of tax. That's how prostitution was charged everywhere in America, except San Antonio. And then the third rule that Brian Callahan would create is that all of the vice, all of the mayhem, all the prostitution would be kept to a 1 mile to 1.5 mile radius. All of it would be in one area. That wasn't too bad of an idea. There were many, many madams that strongly opposed these weird rules that San Antonio had. So we have a madam named Madam Garza, Amalia Garza. She was a madam back in the 1800s. And she thought this was ridiculous because, think about it, if you had a call home, you only had one bed, or if you had a brothel that had 75, you were going to pay the exact same amount. She thought this was ridiculous. And women didn't have a lot of rights back. And that was a law. She would win her case because it was unfair that the city was charging this much money. $500 would be turned away and prostitution would continue in the city. However, Brian Callahan was pissed. This did not make sense. He was not happy with this overturn of his gospel, which is a Saturday. She lived until she died there, pretty much in prison. As soon as she was in prison in that state asylum, Brian Callahan went over to the state, went over to Austin and said, hey, we need this much. We need these things in order to keep Solomon safe. And it's all gentlemen up in Austin said, you're right. That makes sense. We'll do that. And $5 fees. There's another madam named Fanny Porter. Fanny Porter is a very important character in the city of San Antonio. Has anybody ever heard of that? No. Not that. Another, before the mortgage company. Well, Fanny Porter, she was a very well-known madam. She was also known to be the richest woman. She believed that women needed proper nutrition, so she brought in a cook to cook 3 meals a day for these women. And on top of that, she believed that women had the right to choose. So it was very rare in that time, but if a woman wasn't comfortable with a gentleman, they had the right to say no. And that was a huge, passionate woman, and she was also kind of a violent woman every now and then. But Ignacia got married at a very early age. She got married at the age of 15 years old. And if you've ever been in a relationship at the age of 15, most of the time it does not work out. And that's exactly what happened with Ignacia. It didn't work out. She found herself coming to San Antonio via Mexico, and she found herself wanting a divorce. It's very rare in the 1800s for a Catholic woman to seek out a divorce, but that kind of tells you the kind of human Ignacia was. She got that divorce, and then she's walking around just on the other side of the cathedral on the street, and she sees her ex-husband. Her ex-husband is hanging out with a new woman. Her heart had not healed yet. She was pissed. She took out her pocket knife and she tried to stab that new woman. However, she was separated. No one got hurt. But 2 weeks later, the new woman ended up being poisoned to death via a little slip of something in her cocktail. All fingers pointed to Ignacia, but there was never enough evidence to arrest her. She would later go on after that to start becoming a madam in this city. She actually had her brothel just a block and a half away from here down the street, having with Ignacia with another woman. She was not okay with 3 women in the mix. Mysteriously, she sends all of her prostitutes out for the day, gets them out of the house, gets them some fresh air, and the lawyer and her are alone in the house. They're in the bedroom together, and somehow, very mysteriously, the lawyer is shot dead. Of course, all fingers point to Ignacia. She was the only one in the house. She was arrested this time, and she was put on trial. However, she has a very smooth tongue, and she met up with the sheriff. And the sheriff helped her to be acquitted. She was acquitted, saying that there was not enough evidence. And then 2 years later, the sheriff and her ended up becoming husband and wife. She would continue to advocate, she would continue to speak up for women, and she was not going to ever surrender to a man. And in her afterlife, she does just that. She is buried in San Fernando number 1, just about a mile west of here. Very interesting about her memorial, her grave, is that it's an obelisk. And that obelisk is in front of Brian Callahan's place of burial, this mayor that was pocketing all this money when it's quite a jerk. So it looks like.
Oh, that's good lighting.
This is one of the oldest buildings in the city of San Antonio. It does date back to almost 300 years ago when it was opened. It is called the Spanish Governor's Palace. However, there was no palace here. This was actually not a palace at all, but it was a place of official business for the Spanish during their tenure in San Antonio. Why I like to point this little spot out really quickly is because it's also associated with a lot of lore, a lot of haunts. There's a lot of weird history behind that I won't get into, but there is one thing that I will get into that is very historical. Right here, this little plaza right here outside the fountain, if you look at, if you count 1, 2, 3 trees down, that 3rd tree used to actually be a place of execution during the mid-1700s. 41 people were executed right there. Very interestingly enough, you'll see right here for a private reception, you can call here. Usually people rent out this little outdoor plazas, and a lot of is a Holiday Inn today. However, it used to be our old Bexar County jailhouse. This did operate as a jailhouse for about 70 years. During that time, it experienced a lot of tragedy, a lot of very strange occurrences, as well as interesting stories. I'm only going to share one with you tonight, but this is also a very reasonable place to stay in the downtown area. So if you're looking for never a reasonable and haunted location, this might be within your budget. Now, guests who stay here will report hearing somebody pace right outside of their doorway, pacing through all the night. They'll go out, they'll look at that little people. There's never anybody there. One of the other common occurrences that supposedly people hear is screaming from a grown man at the top of their lungs in the middle of the night. One of the other things that's commonly heard is opening and closing of those old jail cells. If you'll take a look at the front of the building, you're actually going to notice that there are bars on those windows. Those are original bars. In the state of Texas, on historical buildings, we do not manipulate the front of them. We can remodel all of the inside, do things to the sides, but the front facades all should stay the same. And so that is why you'll see those original bars still there to this day. Now I do want to tell you a story about a man named Clemente Apolinar. Anybody ever heard of Clemente? No. Clemente, he was around in the Republic. He was about 30 years old.
You're paying for it to show you how dumb this is going to be.
One day, he was visiting family in Floresville, and he's on his way back into San Antonio. It's August. It's pretty hot in San Antonio at this time, and he was very accustomed on his way from Floresville to San Antonio to stop on his walk and stop at the Salado to have a drink of water. And this was his custom. He had a little favorite spot that he loved to stop at. And Clemente is getting close to his little spot. He's about to get his water, about to walk to the right spot, and he sees these little Anglo boys. And these little Anglo boys are playing for his mindset. All up until one of the little boys jumps into the creek and kicks up all the mud in the water so he cannot have his drink. Now this is when Clemente just...
Note to myself, this would make a good slider shot here.
And he goes into a bit of rage. It's like he doesn't even know what's going on. He tackles one of the little boys down. That little boy's name was Theodore. He gets Theodore on the ground, he gets him in a headlock, and he picks up one of those rocks they were just throwing at him. He takes that rock in his hand, and he begins to hit Theodore's head. He begins to bash that kid's head in. He does this until Theodore dies. It's not enough for him. He's still in this fit of rage, and he takes out his pocket knife. He makes an incision from this point all the way to this point. He fills up this kid's scalp. He breaks into that cranium and he pulls out the kid's brain. He then tosses that brain into the salado, flips the kid around, and he gouges one of his eyeballs out of the socket, wraps it in his handkerchief, and begins his way right back to San Antonio. He doesn't know he's done wrong. In fact, he actually thinks that he stopped the bullet. That's what in his head he believes. So he gets to San Antonio, and he takes that eyeball out of his pocket, opens up the handkerchief, people on the street, and telling them this story because he's kind of proud of himself for sticking up to this bully. And it doesn't take him long before he is arrested and brought. You have, at this point, two communities kind of outraged. What happened? Well, this does go to trial. And in the trial, it is very, very skewed. All of the jurors are all white people, completely compromised of white folks in the 1920s here. They decide Clemente's fate within a matter of 10 minutes. They come back and they say that Clemente is guilty without a shadow of the doubt, and they sentence him to death by hanging. You have the Mexicanos that are in outrage. They're very, very upset this has happened. They are pointing out these injustices, some almost for the first time, because they are seeing, hey, you had an all right jury, you took 10 minutes to deliberate, this guy is mentally ill, he has a record since a child of being mentally unhealthy, and you're gonna just kill him. Well, it works out. They do bring him here for execution. And on the day of his execution,